Exploring an uneasy time in higher education. The Trump administration has most notably been doing battle with Harvard. Just yesterday, the Justice Department said the university violated federal civil rights law by failing to deal with the harassment of Jewish students on campus.
The administration has found them in violation of Title VI and has threatened to withhold their federal funding because if you break federal law, you should not be receiving federal tax dollars.
A letter sent to Harvard says if changes aren't made, it will lose all federal funding. Harvard says it has already taken substantial steps to address anti-Semitism on campus. Harvard and others have already faced federal funding cuts or the threats of it. A lot of it going to medical research of things like cancer, Alzheimer's, childhood diseases. Sometimes it's been over claims of anti-Semitism. Sometimes it's over what is said to be changing priorities. In fact, the New York Times reported the National Institutes of Health canceled more than 1,300 grants back in the spring. The Times said the agency scoured grants for keywords and phrases like transgender, misinformation, vaccine hesitancy, and equity. It ended those grants focused on certain topics or populations. We saw the impacts locally at UNC Charlotte. A project focused on helping LGBTQ survivors of sexual assault was abruptly canceled. The termination letter said research programs based on gender identity are often unscientific, have little identifiable return on investment, and do nothing to enhance the health of many Americans.
It's really hard to read the termination notice because it's not true. We know that LGBT people exist. We believe they're valuable and they matter.
Now, a judge ruled some of the cuts nationwide were illegal and they've been restored, but the battles, legal and otherwise, are ongoing. Now, as a result of these actions, earlier this year, dozens of higher education leaders signed a letter entitled A Call for Constructive Engagement.
We've seen a period of polarization and really a decade of declining trust in higher education. And so the current moment is a kind of manifestation of that. But you know, we have the greatest higher ed system in the world in the United States, both in the research that takes place and in the teaching and learning that happens in our classrooms. And so what I want to see is a constructive engagement between different levels of government with our society and higher ed leaders, because we have a lot to offer.
One of those who signed that letter is right there, Davidson College President Doug Hicks. He's been leading the small private liberal arts college for about 3 years. Now, funding cuts haven't been a major issue on his campus, but he does have concerns over the impact of those cuts on other schools, also academic freedom, and recent efforts to limit visas to students coming from overseas. We sat down to talk about the state of higher education.
We have a lot to offer to the economy and to society. And as a human institution, as a college or university, we can get better. We're certainly not perfect. And so for me, the question is, how do we do that constructively instead of oppositionally? And some of the opposition has surprised me.
Yeah, I'll talk more about that coming up. But the very first sentence in the letter says, we speak with one voice against the unprecedented government overreach and political interference now endangering American higher education. What's unprecedented? What's in danger?
Yes. What's in danger is the high quality educational experience of undergraduates and other students at our wonderful institutions, some 5,000–6,000 institutions across the country. And our ability as a well-resourced university that has a generous endowment because of private donors who've invested, our ability to provide unprecedented and outstanding financial aid is at risk. I would say the unprecedented piece overall nationally is the broad-sided attacks on research, on cultural organizations, and educational institutions.
I guess a lot of this started right with allegations of anti-Semitism on campus. Has that been an issue here at Davidson? Is it a broader issue nationwide?
We have a very strong Jewish student union here with 100 students. When I was here, it was a handful of Jewish students. We are an imperfect institution of 3,000 faculty, students, and staff. We have not had instances of outright or overt anti-Semitism. We have had demonstrations on both sides of the Israel-Palestine conflict. We've done everything we can to make it those respectful, and any demonstrations according to time, manner, and place. And because we've been preemptive, because we've been individualized in that, we have not had any significant issues.
Do you think that's what this is all about still, the anti-Semitism part of this and what the federal government has been trying to do?
I think welcoming students who are pro-Israel and students who are Jewish is a fundamentally important commitment. When I look at what Harvard's doing, what other institutions, and really looking at home at Davidson College, the focus on anti-Semitism has been overblown. And there are critiques of higher ed, things that we need to talk about, like affordability, like having various perspectives, having welcoming free expression. We need to work on all those things. But the anti-Semitism question has been enlarged and used as a kind of cudgel on the whole issue.
Conservatives in general, right, they've sort of long maintained that they don't have an equal voice on campus. Is that a concern?
It is a concern because we want to make sure that all students, and for that matter faculty and staff, have a sense of belonging and a sense of voice. We have achieved a high level of free expression, and students across the spectrum talk about being able to express themselves and have mutual respect. Are we evenly balanced between liberal students, moderate students, and conservative students? We are not. But we are far more balanced than a lot of our peers in the elite ranks, and we pride ourselves in being in a purple state, being an inclusive campus where conservative and liberal voices, voices of all religious backgrounds, all national backgrounds are welcome. And we've had really quite good success. Our student satisfaction numbers are really high across those groupings.
Do you feel like there's a diversity of thought when it comes to the faculty?
I do. It would not be evenly, in demographic terms, evenly sorted out across those categories. But we have people of all perspectives on the faculty. And again, my concern about faculty is less what their own personal commitments are and more about, are they teaching students how to think for themselves?
I'm wondering, have those in higher education made mistakes? Have they been a little aloof to some of these concerns?
Well, certainly people in higher education have made mistakes because I say this a lot, we are all human beings, and we can, institutions are imperfect and so are individual actors. Higher education institutions have always been places for new ideas and innovation, and we believe in progress. So it's no surprise that progressives would find their way to education and exploration of new ideas and researching new concepts, et cetera. But the important thing is that we welcome all kinds of ideas to what we're doing on campus. And when we make mistakes, when we exclude someone unintentionally or intentionally, we need to think again and fix it.
We're going to have more of our conversation here tomorrow night. We're going to talk about what he sees as the path forward for Davidson and for higher education as a whole. Coming up next.